fans and who-dats from all over the world. It's time for the Bayou Blitz. With your host, Bob Rose.
Happy Wednesday, New Orleans Saints fans, who-dat fans, and everybody throughout the NFL universe. Welcome to the Bayou Blitz, and I hope everybody is having an enjoyable Wednesday evening. We certainly thank you for inviting us into your homes and your radio waves once again. And how are you doing tonight, Mr. Kyle Mosley?
What's going on, Bob? Everything is going great down here. It's just too hot in Houston. It's real hot in her down here in Houston. So let's get some cool days blowing our way.
You know what, sir? You can have some of our cool days. First week of June, and most of the week has been 60-degree weather. I don't like it.
Really? Wow. 60 degrees. I don't even think we get that at nighttime. So, that'll be great to have, man. Well, good.
Yeah. To say the least, the weather in Western Pennsylvania, this spring, we haven't had much of a spring, and to call it schizophrenic might just be an understatement. And like I've told you about myself, I'm a beach bum at heart. Give me 90 degrees and I'm a happy boy. So I will happily flip-flop weather with you guys down there any day.
Well, I tell you what, man, just let me know. I'll get the ticket. We can swap places for a little bit. I can hang out with your little one there. He'll keep me busy. But the cool weather is what I need. I tell you, man, it was burning up the past week and a half here in Houston already. So.
Yeah, and I mean it's been many years since I have been down to New Orleans or the Gulf Coast region, but I do remember getting down there a couple of summers during my younger days, and I will admit and agree with you that the heat is definitely oppressive. But even as a punk kid like I was, I still always loved it.
Yeah. Well, it's home, man, and if you are from the Gulf Coast, you're going to have these hot days, the humid days, and everything that goes with it. But I'd rather that than a sporadic winter blizzard any day. I can tell you that much, man. So
no doubt. I always tell people up here when they go complaining about the weather when it gets real hot, I'll look at them and I say, you don't have to shovel humidity.
Definitely, man. So, but how's everything else going sports-wise with you guys? I saw you had some great articles that came out this week in the Canal Street Chronicles.
Yeah, I did. I only had a couple. I got to give myself the proverbial kick in the butt to get moving again. But during these slow times, as our teams go through OTAs and then into minicamp, we're obviously going to be doing the position-by-position breakdowns and pending training camp battles. But before that, last year I started a series, and I call it the New Orleans Saints Triumphs and Tragedies throughout their team history. And unfortunately, as any Saints fan will tell you, there's been a few more tragedies than triumphs. But this week I did release two articles. One was the tragedy, the triumph turned tragedy of the River City Relay, the game against Jacksonville in 2003. And then I followed that up by doing a triumph, the Saints' first ever playoff victory against the Rams, and Jim Henderson's iconic call of Akeem dropped the ball. I do enjoy writing those, and it gives breaks up kind of the monotony of the current player and current position coverage. Obviously, that's what's important to our viewing public, but we certainly like to touch base on history as well. And we had Scott Alexander on last week, and Kyle, you and I both know how much Scott, number one, knows about Saints history, but number two, he just enjoys talking about it so much. And just after having him on as a guest in the great show that we had, I felt impelled to do a couple more of those historical pieces, and I'll do a few more as the off season progresses as well.
Well, that's good, man. History is always good for Saints fans to know, because especially most of the younger generation is not aware of the trials and tribulations we used to have growing up, like Scott and I, from Tulane Stadium to the Superdome, and to see perennial losing teams, not winning teams, but losing teams. And but the one thing about Saints fan has always been the constant. We are fans, diehard fans. And, I look at some of these teams around the league, especially being here in Houston, they really haven't had a true winner, a consistent winner here as well. And the fans have been disenchanted time and time again. But look, even when we were 0-13 and 14-1 or whatever, Saints fans still tried to pack that Superdome, and we still wanted to support our team. And I think that's what makes us pretty unique. We're not fair weather fans at all.
Without a doubt. And that's one of the things that make it so easy, especially if you're an outsider, looking in about the New Orleans Saints. If you're a young fan, at least in my opinion, we talk about family, and we talk about family on this show a lot. But fans of the New Orleans Saints, it really is an extended family, and we know in most everybody's family, you're going to have, it's almost like a roller coaster, an emotional roller coaster. You're going to have your ups and downs, but at the end of the day, they're still family. You're still going to stick with them more so than anybody else. And that's such an easy comparison to make with New Orleans Saints fans, the New Orleans Saints team, of course, and their history of ups and downs.
Yeah, definitely. We've had, like you said, more downs than the ups, but it's a tribute to what we have been seeing from Drew Brees as well as Sean Payton over the past several years. Even through the Bounty Gate scandal and some of the 7 and 9 seasons, these fans still had hope, still had the belief that the Saints were going to pull it around and turn it around. And last year was evident in that. And I believe the hopes are high for this year. Look, Bob, we cannot continue to have Drew Brees playing at the level he's playing at and misuse his abilities and not put a winning team out there to compete for a Super Bowl, another Super Bowl. And I really believe that the Saints have missed some golden opportunities, at least 2 to 3 opportunities to play for another championship under the leadership of Drew Brees. It's very rare that we have a leader at this level, under center. If you look at what's happening in the NBA Finals, and here in Houston, I told a lot of people this a couple of weeks ago, and it's not a knock against James Harden. It's just what I see is true. He is not what you call a leader. He's a great scorer, a great basketball player, but you need a leader on the field, a battle, right? And that's why when they lost Chris Paul in that fifth game and he couldn't play for the sixth and seventh game, I just knew these guys were going to be in trouble. You need to have that type of person on the field, and you see how LeBron wheeled his team to the finals. Drew Brees is that guy. You have such a talent. We don't, and he's in the last stages of his career in the National Football League. We can't let that go to waste. We need to see another championship or have a chance to be able to get into the Super Bowl. And we came close last season, but we can't keep on saying we coming close. We've got to be able to get over that hump and put it in for this season coming up in 2018.
No doubt about it. And Drew himself is such a unique personality as well, and you've called him a leader. Anybody that's ever played for the Saints in the Drew Brees, Sean Payton era would echo that statement. That Drew is a leader first and a great football player second. You look at his statistics last year. He still had a terrific season. Don't get me wrong. Over 4,300 yards, 23 touchdowns thrown against only 8 interceptions, but you look a little closer, and that was his lowest statistical output in, I think, at least 6 or 7 years.
Right.
And he didn't whine or bellyache or complain even one time. Why? Because the team was winning, and he continues to do whatever it takes for the team to win. If that means he needs to go out and throw for 450, 490 yards and 5 touchdowns for them to have a chance, well, I think he still has the ability to do that. And yet last year it was on the other side of the spectrum. Again, he had a very nice statistical year, but they didn't need that kind of statistical output from him because the team around him defensively in the running game, it was so much more well-balanced. And Drew was able to step back a little bit and not be the man anymore, as the saying goes, but be instead a vital cog in the machine that rolled to the NFC South Championship and made a run for the Super Bowl. And I think that's the way this team is set up again for that kind of run.
Right. And you look back in 2010 when we fell short in Seattle, right? Still, I don't believe if you have the winning record, you should be going play a visiting as the visitor anywhere. But that's another story. And 2011 was, I think, one of the best teams the Saints ever had. And we fell short, a few seconds short, right, with that last second touchdown from, was it Vernon Davis, right? And then you look at what happened last year, another few seconds short again. But, the team has a good supporting cast. And you look at what happened in 2009, that's what they had. It's a supporting cast not only on offense but also on defense, and this year we also have a great supporting cast, and I think we're going to see some those guys made a tremendous leap in the rankings last year. I think we're going to see one of the best defenses in the National Football League being fielded in New Orleans.
I agree with you. And, for a time, for a good portion of last season, they were actually a top 10 defense in most statistical rankings.
Right.
Now, they ended the season on a little bit of a down note and finished around the middle of the pack in a lot of stats. And a lot of that was because of injuries. The injuries mounted as the season went along, and the team just wasn't quite deep enough to handle and still playing at the high level. But we've talked about it here the last few weeks when we've broken down the Saints defense, and we'll continue to do so. I think the team is deeper now. Certainly on the defensive side of the ball, they've added some key free agents as well, and along with some high draft picks. And the guys that played so well and played such an important role last year, well, they're one step, they're one additional NFL year of experience in those young guys like Lattimore and Anzalone when he gets back on the field, and Marcus Williams. And that second year of NFL experience makes all the difference in the world. I think any player will tell you that it's night and day between their first and second year.
Right. Well, and you always have what you would think, what would be the sophomore jinx or not. But I don't see that with the character of these guys like a Ramczyk and what you saw from Alvin Kamara. I think it's going to be a really important season for those guys to not only continue to be major contributors for the Saints, but I'm looking forward to see what these young rookies as well as some of the free agent acquisitions are going to do for the team.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's an exciting time to be a fan of the New Orleans Saints. It's a beautiful blend of veteran leadership and skill, along with some exciting young and very hungry talent, along with coming off of the type of disappointment. I mean, anytime you don't hoist the Vince Lombardi trophy at the end of the year, you're of course disappointed because you would certainly expect it as a competitor. That's your ultimate goal. But the way that the New Orleans Saints season ended last year, if that doesn't make you as hungry as any person on the face of the earth, then maybe you should look for another profession.
Definitely, man. And I think that's the ultimate goal for any professional. If you're not a champion, then you're a loser. And I'm not saying that you're a loser like with the big L on the forehead, but you haven't really done what you set out to do through all the training camps, the preparation for your body, the weightlifting, the grinding in the classrooms, and the meetings and everything else. Man, if you go through all of that, you want to be able to hoist that Lombardi trophy at the end of the season.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes not only for sports, but any profession. One of my favorite sayings is, if you're not doing something to try to be the best at it, then why are you doing it?
Right. Exactly. You're just sucking up air, So you got to love what you do. You have to be able to be the best. And my dad used to always tell me this when I was growing up. Remember, don't be good as, be better than.
Yep, exactly. And I'll reach back into history a little bit again. But one of the Saints' most hated rivals, the San Francisco 49ers, and their genius coach, Bill Walsh, he used to say all the time that, hey, look, our goal is to win the championship every year, and that's where we set our base camp in the off-season preparations. This is where we want to be. This is not, in fact, this is where we expect to be. And anything short, we go immediately back to work. And that goes right back to what you and I were just saying. If your goal isn't to be the best at it, then really, why are you doing it?
Right. Exactly. And I can see, Bob, we have Amy joining us. How you doing, Amy?
Hey, how y'all?
Good. Welcome to the Bayou Blitz.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're really excited to have you, Amy. And you're bringing, Kyle and I were just talking a little bit about New Orleans Saints history. And you're certainly a piece of that franchise's history, which we'll get into. But before we do, I understand that you're a bit of a superhero in Who Dat Nation now. You stopped a recent robbery attempt. Are you allowed to tell us anything about that?
I did. I actually apprehended. I have a shop in the French Quarter, worked in the Quarter for years, and I actually apprehended on Saturday a guy who's known for jewelry thieves. Heisting, actually. Sold a couple of Rolexes and a Louis Vuitton bag from one store and thousands of dollars of jewelry through the other store, and is wanted in Mobile, Alabama for the same kind of things. And I apprehended my store on Saturday. It was a trip.
Hold on, Amy. I want. How did you apprehend him? That's what I need to understand this one. Hold on.
Oh, it's a story in itself. Let me just tell you. He's very personable. He talks to you just like any other customer. Very outgoing. Came up to the counter. And I saw him and noticed him from his wanted posters, and I went, "Oh my goodness, this is the man that's wanted for the jewelry heist." And lucky enough, there was an NOPD officer passing my shop and got him. And literally, we both chased him on foot through the line at Cafe du Monde and traffic, and apprehended him in front of Jackson Square. It was just ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Well, crazy.
Hey, I'm glad you came through it safely. Things like that. These guys have a way of turning the tables in a negative fashion, but I'm glad you came through safely.
I was raised with all boys, so I pretty much carry my own.
Good.
So what you basically are telling us, then, you read and diagnosed, you recognized, read and diagnosed, took the angle, and then made the stop. So we're going to be watching the safeties throughout camp, and if they don't perform up to our expectations, Sean Payton and Dennis Allen better be signing you to a contract.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know about all that. Wouldn't that be fun?
No doubt.
Too funny.
And I didn't find out until recently that you were a member of the Saints-Sations. Tell us when that was and how you got involved in it.
Well, I went to LSU and was living in New Orleans and was at school and saw a tryout my freshman year, and I had danced my whole life and decided that I would try out for the team. This was in the late 80s. so it wasn't as the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders were the big thing back then, and so it wasn't a hardcore workout like it is now. It wasn't, the 3 different tryouts and you make it to this and that. You basically had one tryout, and I made the team. So different time, different clothing for sure. But it was fun. I did it 1 year. 1 year, and then that was it for me. But it was a blast.
Oh, and certainly a big part of the team's history. And you said the late 1980s, before Sean Payton and Drew Brees came along, was certainly the glory years of the franchise right there that you were involved in.
Oh, yeah. Bear was the quarterback, and Jim Mora was the coach, and it was the year that we made it to the playoffs.
Wow. That's
yeah, it was pretty amazing. I still have my sweatshirt, my playoff sweatshirt, which is really, really cool. Still hanging in my closet. Still have it. It was old school sweatshirts from the 80s, if you can imagine it. No hoodies, nothing like that. And so those were distributed to us at that time, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of good energy in the city, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, and we were talking about this before, that's one of the things that, in my opinion, would cause an outsider to fall in love with New Orleans Saints football, is just the passion that the entire region has for their football team, win or lose.
It was just nothing like it. And to see Tom Benson get so excited, and, the Benson Boogie was born, and it was like, I can't even explain it to you. It was electric. It was amazing. You didn't see many bags here. That was really cool. So when I was at the station, we were a no team. Why would you want to cheer for them? Why would you want to be part of this organization? And lo and behold, it was a magical year for sure.
No doubt. And I know you love football and are extremely knowledgeable about the game, but when you were a member of the squad, did you have an opportunity to actually follow what went on the field? Because I know they keep you guys extremely busy with your routines and everything else, too.
They do. It's weird because back I was young. I mean, I was, I was still late teens. And I with my dad to the deep older adult. So I followed it. I knew what was but nothing like I do now. Completely different. So now, plus I was in school, so I had that to contend with as well. And being a Saint Station, you really only have 8 hours of practice a week, if that. And I was driving back and forth, so there was that aspect of it too. So not as much as I am into it now, for sure.
Now, a lot has been made lately about Bailey Davis's release from the Sensation squad this past April, due to different Instagram postings and I think pictures too. You filed a lawsuit, and then you heard about other teams. I think it was Redskins, Jaguars, Dolphins. Some of the lawsuits coming out of there.
Right.
Before we get into some of the rules and regulations that you guys had to follow. Do you have any comment about those lawsuits?
I can see their point completely. I think that the laws the rules and regulations are a little dated. I think that some of them there are extremely extreme, pretty ludicrous. When you have to leave a restaurant because there are coaches there. At the same time, I feel like for a couple of years, I think Bailey did it, and she signed off on those rules. I mean, they're pretty plain with those. You're told at orientation, you're told at tryout 1. Apparently they now have 3 tryouts or so. So, and then you sign a contract agreeing to said rules. So, I mean, they kind of knew what was going on when they signed up to do it. Do I think they need to be changed? I think they're ridiculous. I do understand the whole distraction thing, with the players and the cheerleaders. But it's 22, so I'm all about empowering women, and I get exactly what they're saying. But at the same time, they signed off on it. So it's a tricky situation for me.
Well, and that's a great take. I know you and I have talked privately a little bit about, because the one thing about her lawsuit that made certain things come to light, and I wasn't aware of a lot of them, so I don't know who else was. But explain to some of our listeners about some of the expectations and some of the rules that you did have to adhere to once you sign on to be a Saint-sation.
Well, I mean, you basically have to carry yourself with complete dignity because you're representing the NFL. You're not supposed to speak out. At least at my time, there was no internet. There was no Facebook. There was no Twitter. So it was a little bit less of a tricky situation. You weren't supposed to pose for any calendar, or if you did any kind of modeling prior to that, there was certain regulations on that. You have to understand, when I was a Saint-sation, though, we wore leotards. We didn't wear these. They're more revealing outfits now. So we were just constricted to that. You were able to leotard, but you couldn't pose for anything there. The main thing they pounded into our head was not to fraternize with the coaches, the players, the staff, etc. That was a huge no-no. You just did not do that. And their reasoning is they don't want any distractions whatsoever on the field for the players. They don't want them looking over at their girlfriend or someone they're interested in. They really just want you to be visible to them, to be honest. That's basically it. That's what they pounded into our head.
I'm sorry, you broke up, Amy. What was the last thing you said?
I mean, at every chance they got, you were told that. I mean, really, not even to make eye contact, to be honest. I don't know if we signed off on not making eye contact, but that was said plenty of times. Plenty.
Hey, can I ask a question?
And again, go ahead, Kyle, sorry.
Amy, so basically you had to be a nun on the field, right?
Basically.
And had to live your life accordingly throughout the whole season, or did that terminate at the end of the season, or did you have to carry it through to the following season until you try it out again?
Yeah, basically. If you decided, I decided I wasn't going to try out again, just didn't fit into my schedule. And so, of course, once I terminated my position and I was not going to pursue that the following year, then I was able to obviously do whatever I wanted to do. But yeah, if you're continuing on, in my case, and my, people I was with, yeah, you abided by those rules. That's pretty strict. You weren't really around the players either. Really, the only time you were around the players is whenever they were coming out of the locker room. And that was really it. I mean, on the field, obviously, in another zone. And you're actually in another zone as well, if you understand, mentally and physically. But yeah, this whole fraternizing, don't look at them, don't make eye contact. It was pretty intense. And I'm sure it's even more so now with social media and what have you.
And I can understand, just like I agree with you when you said that you understood their expectations about no fraternizing and certainly no relationships or anything like that. But I also agree that they do seem to take it a little bit to the extreme. For example, like you said, if you're sitting in a restaurant and already at your table and eating your meal and a player walks in, then the expectation is that you are the one that has to get up and leave, correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Were the players, at the time you were involved, were the players pretty respectful of what you guys had to adhere to and pretty much steer clear of you and make your life a little bit easier in the process?
I think so. I mean, I believe so. I mean, every once in a while you go, hey, or something like that. But, yeah, you're not really around them that much. At that time, we didn't do any functions where we signed when they signed. Really far removed from them, in my case. You don't really have any options, or we didn't, to recognize them. I didn't really see him in public that much either. Different time, though. Completely different time. I'm sure it's true.
And that makes sense too, because, and like you said, while on the field, they have their own athletic duties to perform, just as you guys did. So you were, you were each involved in two completely different activities that were really not intertwined, other than you're under the same roof doing it.
Correct, and that's true. Absolutely. Yep, that's exactly, you nailed it. So, like I said, you just didn't really have an opportunity to get to know them or to do anything with them. There was no joint autograph signings, or I don't even think we did autograph signings back there then. We did meet and greets, and that's about it. So,
Amy, what do you make of – I'm sorry, Bob. I was just kind of curious. What do you make of the situation with the Washington Redskins cheerleaders where they had to pose topless in front of sponsors or supporters of the franchise?
Okay, what was that again? They had to do pull their.
Yeah. Well, recently an article came out in ESPN and other news agencies carried it as well, but they were saying that the Washington Redskins cheerleaders had to pose for a calendar topless. And they had to do it in front of like sponsors, and I'm just thinking that's ridiculous.
Oh, that's horrid. I had heard a little bit about that. I didn't read too much into it. It's almost unbelievable.
Yeah.
To me, that goes away from the whole what they're trying to get back with the NFL as being a family sport, and so that makes zero sense. And talk about walking out in 2.5 seconds. That wouldn't fly. Especially for a Southern girl. We're not doing that. So, that's absolutely absurd. It makes no sense. It doesn't even go to me with the guidelines of where the NFL is trying to be or trying to represent themselves as. So, makes no sense. It's disgusting to me. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Based off the current culture and what you had experienced before, if you had the power to go back in time, would you do it again? Would you make the decision to be a Saint Sation again?
Probably not. And nothing against the organization. It's just, you don't do it for obviously money. I mean, we got paid $25 a game. I think now they get paid between $50 and $75 a game. You get free parking and concession. It's a hobby. The girls that you cheer with are pharmacists, nurses, teachers, business owners. You don't do it for the cash. It's just you practice maybe, like I told you before, 6 to 8 hours a week, and then if you do any meet and greet functions, that's usually an hour to 2 hours. So, I probably wouldn't. I was young and it was a blast. Don't get me wrong, but it can be time consuming, and it's just I wouldn't do it. I personally wouldn't do it. Not with the rules right now either. I think now it's gotten so ridiculous with the rules. The restaurant thing, it just blows me away. I can't imagine eating at a restaurant and having to get up and leave because, somebody walks in. I think that's ridiculous. So just for that alone, I probably wouldn't sign the contract.
Yeah, because it just seems like you had said, your freedoms are literally being taken away from you.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to not. The expectation is that you're not going to do anything, to jeopardize the team atmosphere or the team culture, and take away from their focus or let them interfere with what your focus is. But to point out some of the things that you just pointed out, before you and I started talking, honestly, I wasn't aware that they went to that much of an extreme. If I could go out on a limb, if either one of my daughters came to me and said, "Hey, I want to be a professional football cheerleader," I don't think I'd stomp my foot down and forbid it, but I think I might try to steer them a different direction.
Well, and this is completely, these women are beautiful and they have the bodies to do this. But myself, I'm extremely modest. I couldn't wear those outfits in public in front of millions of people. I couldn't personally because I'm just so shy in that aspect. And so you have to have a lot of guts to put on something that small. I mean, we wore full leotards, long sleeve. There was no half top. We weren't allowed to wear, show our midriff. It was pretty Well, I mean, it was a different time. So just for that alone, I don't think that I would be comfortable walking around like that. So no way could I do that for that aspect as well. And plus, with the internet these days, I mean, you can't get away with anything. It would be too much pressure for little pay and little recognition. So yeah.
Amy, let me ask you this: why do you think the NFL, billion-dollar corporations, are paying the cheerleaders and to be able to be out there faces for the organization as well, under contract, so little money?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I think I've heard things like because they don't spend that much time and it's not a full-time job, it's extremely part-time. I think I hear that a lot. What I think really threw it into high gear, obviously, was when the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders became the thing in the late 80s, early 90s. And I think that just ran with it, and every team felt like they had to have one of those squads, and it just went from there, and it just stayed at that same basic pay. And I think that's what happened, and just nothing has changed. In fact, the rules have gone stricter. So I don't know. I think that's what started it. I think they felt like once they blew up, the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, and they had, thousands of women coming to try out, that every team had to try to accomplish that. I do. I really think that's what brought it into the forefront.
Still, for equality and workers' rights and things to that nature, it still boggles my mind at this day and age where we still are putting so low priority. I mean, these corporations and sub-companies, which a franchise is, they're still making millions upon millions of dollars. I don't see why you can't pay more than $50, $100 per game. It just doesn't make sense.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. These are part-time jobs. And
Amy, we lost you. Hello?
Oh, are you there? Can you hear me?
Can hear you now.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I'm not moving. Got me?
Gotcha.
We take turns at the Bayou Blitz. We take turns having technical difficulties every week. It might be your turn this week.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry about that.
Tag your it.
Yeah, and I lost my train of thought. So here we are.
That's okay.
Well, no, that's a perfect segue because I know you wanted to talk football too. But one question I wanted to ask you: most everybody has their own positions, favorite positions that they like to watch or follow most closely. Mine, for example, I have a soft spot for cornerbacks and wide receivers. Do you have a favorite position group that you really focus on when you watch a game?
I do, and in the past probably 5 to 6 years, for obvious reason, it's been cornerback. I mean, it's just for the love of God, can we get somebody? You know what I mean? So really, I've really focused on that. And for me to sit here today and say I'm excited about Patrick Robinson, if you would have told me that last year, I would have just hung up the phone. I mean, really and truly. But yeah, cornerback one. For personal reasons this year, I'm really interested in the center because I love Will Clapp and we know his family and what have you. So I'm really excited about that, even though we know he's way low down on the poll. But I'm looking at obviously the defense. Even though, what's strange is that this is the first year that I'm not stressing that we have 3 holes to fill in one position. So I have the luxury of kind of looking at all the positions instead of freaking out about one certain one, or in our case, 17 different ones. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm interested in this whole quarterback thing too. I'm curious about Barrett. Curious about Taysom Hill. I liked what he did last year, so I'm looking at that too. I can't think about life without Breeze right now, though. So it's a weird kind of thing. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on.
No, I don't think any of us want to even acknowledge that there'll be a life after Breeze, but at some point we're going to have to turn that light on and see what's in that room.
I know. I know. I don't think this. I love that Benjamin Watson's back. I don't think this is our year for a big tight end breakout. Even though Wozniak and who else? Yelder, is that who we have?
Yeah.
Which I don't dislike them. I don't. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. I'm so glad to have Ben Watson back, but I really think that's going to be the focus in next year's draft. So that's kind of, to me, the weakest. Even though I love that position. But yeah, wide receivers too. I'm really interested in that bunch coming through. That's going to be really interesting to see Cameron Meredith. That's all you've been hearing about. Him and OTA, so that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, Meredith and them drafting Traquan Smith.
Yes.
I'd like to see what kind of continued progression that Brandon Coleman makes.
Yes.
I couldn't agree more. The tight end is the position that if you sat down with me and asked me what position are you most worried about or could be the most disappointed in, tight end would probably be first on my list. Are there any other specific players or position groups that you find a little bit worrisome as they go into camp?
The main thing is, well, it's been the offensive line. Not so much last year. It really surprised me. But, I'm just really, I can't say it enough. I'm really focused on the tight end. I'm always worried about the cornerback situation, though. I have been. So it's, there was a point in time where I was like, I'm going to meet P-Rob outside the dome and punch him. And now I'm excited to see what he has to bring to the table. And a veteran status, and everybody else that's with him, I think that's going to be really good. I can't even believe I'm saying that out loud. And, of course, Benjamin Watson, too, at tight end is going to be a good mentor as well. But it's probably those two positions, really and truly. That's really what I have focused on my mind. Just like I said before, I just don't see any other positions where we have, 3 holes deep like we have the past 5 years or what have you. So, yeah, I'm excited for Demario Davis. I'm really excited to see what he brings to the table. Cameron Meredith, like I mentioned before. I'm actually looking forward to seeing wide receiver. I'm looking forward to see if Boston Scott brings anything. It's fun to watch his college tape at LA Tech. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Boston is a really exciting player to watch. We don't get a lot of Louisiana Tech games up here, but like you said, when I had the opportunity to click on some of his film, he's more than obviously the first player that people are going to compare him to when they see his stature is Darren Sproles, but his game is not like Darren Sproles. I don't think he has a power aspect to him.
I don't either, to be honest. But I'm anxious to see how he does in an NFL setting, knowing that he's been compared to him. Does he have that, I've got to put out more? So that's kind of interesting. But, that's all I've heard is Darren Sproles 2.0. And, his size is similar. I'll give him that. I think I'm impressed with his college play. I just don't know how it's going to transfer to the NFL. But I'm anxious to see it. I'm anxious to see what he brings to the table for sure.
Does Mark Ingram being suspended for those first 4 games?
Yeah.
Are you worried about how the team's offense is going to perform?
I am. I think anybody is. What a punch in the gut, and so weird because usually I hear something about anything, and I didn't hear anything. It was and to know that this has been going on for a while. It was a punch in the gut. Yeah, I'm worried about it, and that's where kind of the Boston Scott thing comes in. It's like, oh my gosh, but I'm sure they have a plan. Hopefully, they have a plan, but it's scary. I'm sure you're worried too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no question about it.
I'm sick about it.
Ingram's performance the last couple of years, in my opinion, goes under the radar. And I have said repeatedly that I think he is easily one of the top 10 backs in the NFL. And his work, you've got to give him credit. And I know you're an LSU girl, so Ingram coming from Alabama might sting a little bit.
Nah.
But Ingram, you've got to give him credit. He has worked hard on the other aspects of his game since he's come into the league. He's become a better pass blocker. He's worked hard on his receiving skills, and Drew trusts him as a check down target. And I think that that's going to be an underrated aspect that's going to be missing those first 4 weeks.
That's it. It's that chemistry on the field and not having him there to have that reliability and to just be able to read Drew's mind. And that's what it is. Going back to the LSU-Alabama thing, here's my thing. I love you, and kill me sometimes, because once they enter the NFL draft, you have to put that behind. You know, maybe watch their college film and see how they reacted and their size and what have you, but you can't hold it against the player because they went to your rival college. That's just ridiculous. And they do it, but I'm not one. Once they enter the draft, that goes out of the window. I've never held it against Mark. I loved him in college, but I forgot about that. But they do it. I'm just not a typical LSU fan when it comes to that. So.
You're right, and I think that's a reason for a lot, so much of the Ingram hate. And I'm with you. I'm a Penn State boy. I come from a Penn State family. Therefore, I hate Ohio State. I don't care. At this point in time, I don't care where Michael Thomas, where Von Bell, where Marshawn Lattimore played. He's a New Orleans Saint now. He's family.
Yes, I forget about it, to be honest. I was looking through, and I know all these guys are from Ohio State. I know that Sean loves that program. He loves the way they're coached up. He has a good relationship with that organization. But I forget. I completely forget where they're from. I forgot that those guys, until you said it, were from Ohio State. You have to clear your mind of that going forward in the NFL. So, but yes, that's where a lot of the hate comes from. A lot of our fans are so mad they can't get over that he's from Alabama. Just anytime he does something bad, first thing that comes up, ridiculous.
So what days will you be attending camps coming up?
I am going to go opening minicamp, so Tuesday, the 12th. I have to work on Wednesday. Wednesday's my big day at work. And then I'll head out there on Thursday, which is my scheduled day off. So 2 days in minicamp. Training camp, since the schedule's not quite out yet, I don't know. I tend to try to go out the same day for probably try to get out there 3 or 4 times for training camp. Hopefully meet some of my Houdat divas out there. I've got this really great, tight, close-knit of girlfriends. We're all very passionate about the Saints, and every one of us is very knowledgeable. Love girls. My lifeline on top of my... Hopefully get to meet some of them out there as well.
Well, we'll definitely have to have you back. If you're willing, of course, we'll definitely want to have you back on the show during training camp to tell us some of the things that you've observed.
I would love it. Yeah, I would love that. Be honored to do that. That'd be great.
But you mentioned cornerback that you watch pretty closely. You're intrigued about the wide receiver battles. Are there any other specific players or positions that you're really going to have your eye on once you get up close and see them on the field?
Davenport. I really liked him. I know a lot of people were confused, and when we called his name, he was on my radar. I have my little mindset on who I'd like to pick for the draft, and he was at 5 people that I included, and I was just really happy. I was really surprised that people weren't. A lot of people were mad. Do you know much about Davenport personally? Have you read about him and how he is as a person? He's very quiet. He posts poetry on Twitter. He wears feminist T-shirts. He's very, he's an activist as far as women's rights and human rights, and so, of course, that makes me love him even more. But he's just amazing. I think he's going to be great. I think people were very confused because he came from UTSA. I think that a lot of people focus on big name flashy universities, flashy Heisman nominees, and I think that's where he got a lot of dislike when he was picked for us. But I'm super excited about him. In the Senior Bowl, he sacked Baker Mayfield. and had an 18-yard fumble recovery during the Senior Bowl. That's pretty good. You're probably the best of the best. So excited.
And the guy can definitely play. I've read. You read. Obviously, you're into the draft as well as I am. And when you were reading some of the player comparisons, when you were hearing names like Michael Strahan, thrown out. I'll tell you, if Davenport ends up even being a fraction of what Michael Strahan was able to do for the Giants, then the Saints got themselves one darn good football player.
Oh, I mean, and I think he's going to live up to the expectation. I really do. I think he's going to be a sleeper. I know a lot of the national pundits gave him, I don't even know what grade they gave him. I don't think they hated him, but I know a lot of our fans did. But he really is going to, he's going to change some minds. I really do. I really have a lot of hope for him. I think he's going to be great. I think the fact that he came from a small university that people probably didn't even know about was the thing that people were that focused on. The free agency, I'm really excited about Demario Davis. I know a lot of people weren't about him either, but I'm excited to see him and what he has to do as well. I think a lot of people are liking him.
I was jumping up and down like we got a Christmas gift when they signed Davis.
I couldn't believe it. I had to look at my phone 3 times. I'm like, what? Is this real? We've been missing someone like Jonathan Vilma, and I think he can fill that hole. I think he's an impact. I think he'll change the culture at linebacker for the Saints. I really do. I really think he, a lot of people say he's like Vilma was. And hopefully he'll live up to that. But yeah, I'm excited about him, very much so.
Yeah, and Kyle and I just a couple weeks ago, jumping back to Davenport real quick, we were kind of, and it's, all you can do this time of year is project at what a guy would be able to do for your offense or for your defense. So when we were talking about Davenport, one of the nicest things about him is you look at the pieces that New Orleans defense already has in place, and Cam Jordan is still going to command the double and triple teams. Sheldon Rankins, David Onyemata is coming along inside. The linebacking core, especially with Davis, is going to be a lot more active. Right. So Davenport is going to be facing a lot of single-team blocking. That's going to be a great opportunity for him to showcase what he can really do and hopefully do it immediately.
I think so. I really do. I think he's a plug-and-play person. I think he's one of those that comes straight out of the draft and is plug-and-play. I do. I can't say it enough. I'm like on the Davenport train. I love him. I think he's going to be perfect. I think his mindset is there. I just think he's completely focused. I think he's, he has confidence in himself as a human, and that speaks volumes on the field. It really does. Plus, he's pretty massive.
Yeah. And I mean, he's an athletic freak. He can move his feet around the edge.
That's the thing. He's 6'6" and what, like 50, 70, and he has speed. I don't know his combine numbers, but I remember going, damn, that's his combine numbers. So yeah, I'm happy for that. Really excited.
Amy, is this a better roster? Is this a better New Orleans Saints team? All 53 players taken into consideration. Is this a better team than it was in 2018 or 2017?
I think so. I think it is. And I think it is for a couple of reasons. I think the free agency was great. I don't care what anybody says. I think it was great. I think we picked up some great pieces. We're not having to go we're not missing 3 deep in positions. We have these awesome rookies that came through that did great for us. Obviously, offensive rookie, defensive rookie. But these guys, they were rookies. They didn't even know what to expect. They now know what to expect. They have chemistry with this team. We almost made it to the final, conference games. And I just feel like we're deep in so many positions, more so than we have been, possibly ever. I know that sounds very, overly positive, but I do. I think it's a better roster. I'm so excited for it. I really am. The tight ends, that's the only thing. I keep going back to the tight ends. Thing that I'm like, why can't we just get in with the tight ends? But, hopefully they'll focus on that in the draft in 2019. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I think it's great. I think it's good. Wow. Excited for this season to start for sure.
I sort of had to talk myself off of the ledge too when it came to the tight ends. Because every single mock draft that I did leading up to, I think I did 3, I had them either grabbing a tight end in the first round or trading up in the second round to do it. and the fact that they didn't draft any is still a head scratcher to me. But even at that, now obviously the Ingram suspension in the first 4 weeks is going to hurt. But you have to love the weapons that they have surrounded Breeze with. Kamara is one of the best all-purpose backs in the NFL. Michael Thomas, I defy anybody to prove that Michael Thomas isn't a top 5 wide receiver in this NFL.
Right.
And they have, as long as they stay healthy, they have one of the best starting 5 offensive linemen in the league. And if those complementary parts step up, maybe Drew doesn't need a tight end to wow the world this year.
True. I just worried about game plans for other teams, knowing that we're weak right there. I think Benjamin Watson may bring a little fear, but he's old, he's this age. That's my only concern, is game plans for others. But you're right. We have so many weapons that they really can't stop. Michael Thomas is going to go off this year. He really is. He's going to be something special. He's just got it, and he gets it, and he's just so hungry. I mean, you can see it on his Twitter. He's so hungry and ready to go. He hasn't stopped all year long. He
was nearly unstoppable at times last year on those short and intermediate routes. You knew what was coming, and the defense couldn't stop it. I don't think Drew has not had a receiver, and I love Jimmy Graham. I love Marcus Colston. I love Lance Moore. Drew has not had a receiver even close to physically this gifted.
Oh, I agree 100%. And I love those guys with everything. This is another level. This is taking it to another level. I mean, it's almost freak of nature. I mean, I'm so excited right now. I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, my goodness, to see him. He's been committed even in the off season. He tweets weekly, bi-weekly, tri-weekly, these, like he's getting ready for a game, and he just has not his mind is still in the on-season. And that's going to portray on the field next year. It really is. Something else. Yeah. I can't wait. Can't wait.
Speaking of preparing for the off season, I mean, you're an athlete, you're a competitor, you focus on the mental aspects of the game. If you're Marcus Williams and you your team's season ended the way it did, how would you go about what would be some of the first steps that you would take to bounce back mentally, and what do you expect from Marcus this year?
Well, the thing about Marcus is he's not, I know that first week I actually have a friend that's friends with his dad, and during text week after the game, and I was privy to those, and kid was devastated. His dad is a very strong man, and his dad just said, nope, you got to get up, you got to get over it, and you got to put your all into it and go ahead and start preparing for next season. And that's exactly what he's done. He didn't wait for, OTAs or whatever. He has not stopped. He's been in the gym. He's been preparing himself mentally. He hasn't stopped. Kind of like Michael Thomas. He's just gone, and kind of under the radar. He's kept his a little bit more under the radar, but he has got himself mentally ready. I think months ago. I really think he grieved it for a couple of weeks, let it go, and I think that he knows he has to prove himself, and I think he will. His mindset is incredible right now. He's ready. He's hungry, and I really think he's going to show out. I do. 100%. I do. He's been working out like a madman. You've probably seen on his Twitter, and exerting himself, and mentally as well. So I think he's done exactly what he needs to do. Grieve it, get over it, and took his father's advice and picked himself up, and I think we'll see a lot of him next year. I think he's going to be a key piece, for sure. I do. He's going to prove everybody wrong, because bless his heart, I couldn't with the memes anymore. I couldn't do it. It was too much, and I still cringe when I see them here and there. But I think that was a key turning point in his NFL career, and I think that will propel him to do his best for years to come. I do. It could have broken him, whatever. But I don't think it did. I think it's actually going to make him a better player and human. So, life lesson. A big one. Oh, my gosh. A national one. But I think it's going to really work in his favor. I do.
And he does.
Not just because
I
I'm a
agree
super
with you.
fan. Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, Marcus seems like an extremely strong mental player as well. Certainly, I mean, you can't deny his physical gifts, but he seems very strong mentally and emotionally. And this team, and I think that this doesn't get said enough. This team was extremely close last year, and they immediately formed that strong circle around Marcus, and they're gonna recover as a team.
I agree wholeheartedly. I do. And, a lot of it has to do, I'm going to go back to this, you've got to give Marcus Williams' father props, because his father was the strong one to help protect that man, which is going to make him a better man in the future and a father, which is a gift that you can't. I mean, the whole thing is, it wasn't just one bad play. This has made him a better human in life, period, in every aspect. That's huge. That shows on the field. And it really has. And the closeness and the chemistry of the team also surrounding him and lifting him up is, I mean, it's a special time. I don't think people realize how special this Saints team is. It's going to be something else. Please cross my fingers. But I really think that it is. I'm really excited.
And I think I agree with you that this team just seems like a special blend of characters and personalities, in addition to obviously their talent level. And I heard these comparisons thrown all around a lot last year to the 2009 team, because they had a very similar makeup. Although I agree with you, I think that this team is more talented than that 2009 team, at least on paper. But the Mora teams, the teams of the late 80s, early 90s, they seemed extremely close too. And you were, like we said, you were a part of history. So an older fan like myself, I was using some of those comparisons last year, at least from afar, that this team reminds me kind of how close those Mora teams seemed. Would that be an accurate comparison?
Oh, I agree. Being a New Orleanian and New Orleans itself, it's already a tight-knit community, whether they are good or not. But just the vibe of the city and how tight-knit we all are, it just really spills over into our football team. But I'm not just saying this because I'm excited for the season. I honestly agree with you. I think this team might be the one. I really think. I mean, that 2019 was something special, but there's just something about this one. This one, for lack of a better word, they have a little bit of nastiness to them. And I think that, I really do. Morris teams, you're right, very close, but this is nothing compared to that. This is on another level. I really believe that. I really do. It's going to be something.
Kyle, Amy, we've talked about a ton tonight. What have we missed?
Yeah, I don't know.
All good stuff. All good stuff. You guys had me captivated. Amy is. Look, I kind of echoed what you said earlier in the program about this team. I just think coming into this season, high expectations, of course, from us fans, but I think from themselves as well. And I think these guys have something to prove, that this could be the year that we see that second Lombardi in New Orleans.
I agree. I do. I'm feeling it. I think the whole city's feeling it. I think the whole fan base is feeling it. And I really think the guys are feeling it. I don't think there's a doubt. You know what I mean? I think there's no doubt in their mind. That's just the vibe I'm getting. I cannot wait to feel the vibe at training camp. Because trust me, you can tell. You can tell the vibe. I could see that vibe in 2013, and it was horrid. I think you're dead on with that for sure.
Awesome.
And you bring up a great point, and I think a lot of people, if they don't get an opportunity to attend any training camp practices, if you're able to, I certainly recommend it. But I went to the Greenbrier. I went to the Greenbrier all 3 years that New Orleans came up here, and you mentioned the 2014 team, and I shake my head at some of the practices that I watched. And even my daughters, and my little girl, who was I think 8 at the time, and she turned to me and she goes, "Daddy, they don't seem like they're working very hard." I think that right there is in a microcosm But it was interesting. We went back in 15 and 16, and we all know how those seasons ended record-wise, but you could sense that they were building something, and it would certainly take time and has, but the practices have gotten more intense. Sean seems to have gotten his intensity back from earlier in his career. It's been fun watching them rebuild this.
It has been, and you have seen it rebuild. I've seen it escalate every year. I mean, that year was horrific. You could tell it in their body language. There was no chemistry. The coaches' faces were just pathetic. They were miserable. I'm serious. And then each year you would see a little better. And, last year, I really could probably go back and check Facebook statuses. Last year, I remember coming back from training camp going, oh, my God, this is the vibe that I've missed. They're totally in sync with each other. Drew Brees has a smile on his face. It had been a long time since I'd seen that, 3 years at least. So I'm anxious to see what it's like this year. I can't wait.
Yeah, definitely. And again, if it's all right with you, we'd love to have you back on later in the summer. You can report some of the things and interactions that you've had. I knew you were worried. Did you have fun? Did we do all right for you tonight?
I did. I was so nervous, but it was so much fun. You guys are great. You really are. You made me feel comfortable, and it was a lot of fun.
The Lord has made, and I rejoice.
Sorry about that, guys.
Consider us home now.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, and one last thing. I know you have a business right there in New Orleans. You wanna tell us a little bit about it and how we can find you?
Yeah, so head to toe, it's a men's and women's boutique in the French Quarter. It's been around for about 40 years. It's right down the street from Cafe Du Monde on the same side of the street, 816 Decatur. I have a men's Saints ties, cufflinks, bow ties, and I have some women's Saints stuff as well, and all kinds of other great stuff. So, yeah, come see us anytime.
Oh, that's awesome. Amy, anytime you want to promote the shop on our websites, saintsnewsnetwork.com or saintsnews.net, let us know, or saintspodcast.com as well. We're
that would be great
to do it for you. Okay?
Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Thanks for having me. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Amy.
All right, guys. Who dat?
Who dat? Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Bob.
Well, we're going to get a reputation if we're not careful, Kyle. We just keep having great guest after great guest after great guest.
Well, that's what we do. That's what we do, my friend. Amy's so great. Look, man, she makes me think that we need to revive the Saints Angels program that we have here on the Saints News Network. So, man, just a little bug making me think. Another podcast for the Saints Nation.
Oh, no, and I love the idea. And, I mean, she is so energetic and gets so passionate about, not only the Saints, but just talking football in general. I mean, I've known her, I think, for a couple of years now, just through social media. And she's always gracious in conversation. And like I said, I love talking football with her. She knows her current team. She knows her history. And, is extremely friendly and cordial. So, fans, if you're listening, if you haven't talked with Amy about the New Orleans Saints on social media, do yourself a favor and do it. She's very active in all the Saints groups, and I loved having her on as a guest tonight and learning a little bit about her perspective, her place in New Orleans Saints history, and her views about the team now.
Yeah, definitely. Great knowledge, great passion, and hey, she's our homegirl. So, Amy, thank you so much, and hey, you are family now with the Bayou Blitz and the Saints News Network.
Yeah, no question about it. And I mean, we have the Saints are wrapping up I believe it's their final OTAs, and then going to be headed into mini camp next. Correct?
Yeah, pretty soon. Next week? Those guys are going to their first mini camp?
Yeah, and then they'll get I believe about a month off, and then preparations for training camp, obviously right then around the corner, We're going to, anxious to see some of these positional battles, like Amy and, our other guests have been highlighting. Anxious to see our rookies on the field and these new free agent acquisitions in Saints uniforms. It's about to get real, Saints fans.
Yeah, and the countdown is near. We're less than 3 months away. Man, look, think about it. We're going to see NFL football back in the Who Dat Nation, and to see our boys do it this year is going to be great. To see Drew break some major NFL records this season is going to be great as well. And just to see what this team is going to accomplish, the city behind them, the fans, all the loyal fans and the support that they have had through the years. And it'll be a great way to just bless the Benson family as well.
Yeah, and you touched on a couple of the big time records that Breeze is quickly approaching, a couple of which he should break early in this season. And we'll touch on that as during our shows and our different articles as we near training camp. But these are iconic records. I mean, the best of the best of the best, which is certainly where Mr. Drew Brees belongs in any conversation about the best quarterbacks to have ever played this game.
Definitely. If you look at what he has accomplished, I know the completions record is there, the touchdown record is there, right? The yardage record is there. I mean, we have been blessed, man, to see someone in our own uniform being able to accomplish what he's accomplished over these past several years is just awesome. I've been there, and I know if Archie had the supporting cast that he should have had all those years, he probably would have set some records. But Archie was a gamer, and we have seen the progression throughout the years. But to have Drew Brees, guys, you just have to be able to take back and just honor what he's been able to accomplish. Really, really have to take back and honor what he has been able to accomplish. Especially at his stature as well. I mean, think about it. A guy 6 feet tall playing that quarterback position. I heard so many people talk negatively about Baker Mayfield and what his stature and everything else. Well, you have a guy who is a similar stature who may be the all-time record leader by the time he leaves the game that he loves so much.
Exactly, and I'm not a tall guy myself. I joke that I'm not short. I am vertically challenged. But Drew Brees is our mascot, so I'll put it that way.
I'm right there with you, buddy. All right. Well, Bob, it's been a great show. Let the people know how they can follow you.
Okay. First of all, thank you again for listening and bringing us into your homes again Wednesday nights. Bayou Blitz followers, but you can follow me on Facebook. I'm under Bob Rose, and my work is published through Canal Street Chronicles, also on Facebook, and both of us are on Twitter. My own personal Twitter handle is Bobby R2613, and the Canal Street Chronicles site is at Saints CSC, and our work also goes through, of course, the Saints News Network, and you can listen for replays of the Bayou Blitz as well through the Saints News Network or through saintspodcast.com. Not only articles and replays of the show, but Barry Hurst is back in the saddle writing again too. So he's going to put out some great work and just keep us in the family.
Yeah, and Barry's back in the Big Easy as well. So I know Barry's going to have some firsthand articles with some players as well as some people within the organization. So look forward to seeing a lot of his great content on www.saintsnewsnetwork.com. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at Saints News as well as on Facebook at Saints News as well. Don't forget, guys, June 12th through the 14th, fans are able to witness the Saints in minicamp from 11 a.m. to 1:20 p.m. The practice is going to be open to the public on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So be there or be square.
And by all means, if once you've attended practice, as always, we'll be available to talk to every Wednesday night. So shoot us a phone call during the show, shoot us an email or a text leading up to the show if you're unable to call in, and let us know what you saw. Let us know what you thought about what you saw. We'd love to have you involved.
Yeah, and also if you have any clips or any video clips or any photos you'd like to share with Bob as well as Barry and myself at Saints News, go ahead and do so. We'd love to have those. We don't mind publishing those. And if you guys want to be on the show, don't forget, on Wednesday nights, you can call into the show and talk to Bob as well at 504-533-8444. Okay. This is Kyle T. Mosley of the Saints News Radio Network with my man, Mr. Bob Rose of the Bayou Blitz. Bob, it's been great. Hug that little one for me and tell Lauren I say hello.
Will do, and give your family all of our best, too. We'd like to thank Amy Duplessis again for joining us. Amy,
Yes.
You were a great guest.
Yes.
Can't wait to have you back on, and welcome to the Bayou Blitz family.
Awesome. All right, guys. Who Dat Nation, we are out. Have a safe time until next Wednesday night. Take care. Bye.